Hey everybody, Josh here. I'm going to be doing a new segment of videos that I've been wanting to do for a while. I really wanted to. I love movies, as I think everybody should know by now. I'm a really big movie guy. Just ignore the Iron Man 2 poster. That was a different time. But in any case, uh, I want to do a new segment of videos where I did movie reviews, but specifically, I'll get to my really big favorites. This being one of them. But what I really wanted to do videos on were movies that are they're on the line between hated and loved. It's pretty interesting. You see that a lot these days. You see movies that people either really love or really hate. This movie is also in between reviews. People say, "Oh, there's a lot of things going for it, but they got a lot of things wrong at the same time." Others praise it. Some despise this movie. Some even have the audacity to say that the 1998 movie, One America, was better than this one, which is just that's a hell of a statement. Let's just be honest here. So, to really kick off this series of reviews, I think I'll do one of the most recent, I suppose, as far as sci-fi, action, fantasy movies. I'll start off with this Godzilla 2014, and here we go. Okay, so Godzilla 2014. I did my review of this movie before, and that was like pretty much the night I saw it. So, I was still pretty hyped up, and I loved it. I've watched it several times since the initial release, and I gotta say, my views on it have not really changed overall. It's just that I do notice, and I can even accept a few people's complaints. To me, it all depends on what you came in expecting, and excuse me, what your idea of a Godzilla movie is. Even among Godzilla fans, there's a lot of debate about this. So, as with these views, I think I'm going to go over the bad first. And these are major complaints I've always heard. As far as story, people say it's okay. It's Godzilla standards. It's not alarmingly realistic or anything like that. It's not 1954 Godzilla quality. Allegory. It just tells a story, and I'll get more on that later. So story's not really a big issue, I don't think, except for some plot holes people try and point out, but every movie has plot holes, so I'm not going to go over that. No, the big problem people have with this movie are really between Godzilla and the human characters. The one with Godzilla, I think, is the most obvious one people have, is that Godzilla is not on screen for a long period of time, and many people have even made a statistic out of it by saying Godzilla literally counted every second of his screen time, and overall I think it amounts to like something under 13 minutes, maybe less. I'm not entirely sure myself. I haven't counted. I forget the last video or comment said somewhere in some blog, but it's something like 13, maybe less minutes in the movie, which obviously it seems kind of strange for a movie called Godzilla. That, and people complain just about the way it was done, just because, like seen behind me, there's just cutaways. And the movie has about, I'd say, there's about 3, 4, maybe even 5 of them. About 3 involving Godzilla, but there's about a few with other monsters too, but not really. In fact, the Mutos get a lot more attention than Godzilla, but more on that later, like I was saying. So Godzilla, of course, screen time is criticized, but other than that, it gets a lot of praise. But the next thing people really hate, well, the one thing I've heard so many people complain about, Bryan Cranston. Few complaints about they say he was like the emotional center of the movie, which is very true, I guess, in the opening quarter or so. And then they pull Psycho on us, He ends up being killed, which I guess it went up against people's expectations so damn much, they just could not stand it. The movie without him. I guess that's what they really came in expecting after the Breaking Bad hype of it being a very good show, which it is, very good show. Bryan Cranston's a very good actor, and that's what they came expecting. They came expecting literally Bryan Cranston versus Godzilla. And then the next complaint I hear, which I'm kind of going to fuse these together, but the next thing they say is that all the human characters were useless, which is very odd claim to make about a movie, considering cinema of today has so many useless characters in so many movies. One of my biggest complaints about that is the Marvel genre has so many goddamn useless fucking characters. Most of them, wouldn't you know it, comic fucking relief. But in any case, I'm not talking about Marvel today. I'll get to that. I'll get to Thor and Captain America later. Good God. But in any case, yeah, that's one of the main complaints. Not only were some say the characters aren't useless, some say they're just boring or cliche, or that the most notable ones that the main character has to focus on Aaron Taylor Johnson's main character of Ford Brody, is that he's a boring character, not relatable or anything like that. He's in a word, just a blank slate that we're forced to follow, and some people really hated that. So I think I've covered the main negatives of this movie. Aside, oh, there it is, Kevin Tanabe. I guess a lot of people kind of joke around about it. Oh, his only point in the movie is just to stare blankly. And fair criticisms, fair criticisms. I will not just toss them aside now. This part where I'm going to go into the criticisms. So let us begin phase two. All right, and now it's time for my defense of the movie, because it's a movie I dearly love. And so I guess I'll just go in the order of what was I labeled as the criticisms. So let me say this first. I think one of the main problems, and I think a lot of problems that people have been noticing lately with movies, is that trailers actually can ruin a movie for you, even if it is a good, well-made film. And I'll explain. Especially in the genre of, let's just say, things that aren't necessarily ideas that Hollywood came up themselves, like Godzilla, like comic book movies, especially comic book movies. Now, this can really dictate how you feel about a movie just from the get-go, because people watch a trailer, and that's pretty much usually sets up how you feel about the movie in general. It sets up your tone, how much comedy you think you didn't get out of it, what kind of emotions you think you can receive, any kind of messages. Those are usually set up right there in the trailer for you. And sometimes people get misled because they see one thing in the trailer and then you receive another in the movie, and then false advertising or not, it leads to hating the movie right off the bat. For example, when I first saw a Scott Pilgrim trailer, I thought I was going to see a nice, quirky, kind of dorky action movie. And when I finally did see it, what I got was a quirky teen comedy, tweeny romance type of thing, which I'll get to at a later date. At that, when I seen the trailer, I didn't even know it was based on a comic book, honestly. But looking over the comic book and whatnot, my views on it didn't change all that much. But in any case, trailers can mislead you. And this trailer, I don't want to say the marketing was brilliant. And the way they did the trailer really made you believe it was going to be maybe even a 1954-ish remake. I won't say it really put that message out there, but it did look a lot darker. I mean, the movie literally trailers made it look like it was going to be Godzilla versus Bryan Cranston, which I think the number one thing people really thought it was going to be like going in. Because all you see is Godzilla. You see Godzilla here and there, and you see the destruction. You assume it's Godzilla, because I don't think you see Mutos at all in the trailers. And you hear what? Bryan Cranston's epic lines from the movie. And what you get is a very different movie. In fact, if you've seen Monsters, you have a decent idea of what this movie will be like. Although it's not a entirely fair comparison, because that's a movie is a very different origin. Monsters was Gareth Edwards' first movie, and what he did in that movie was focus a lot more on human characters, mostly out of budget, but also because that was the focus of what he wanted. Focus on the human characters, and the monsters were there more as a I'd say even a foil to what humans are like as a whole, instead of just focusing on pure monster action. That movie has just a lot of in between the line readings you have to do, and makes it a pretty good movie. It's just not what you expect. It really isn't, but it's still a really good movie. And the same thing with this one. Now, the first complaint I'll go over is, of course, the running time with Godzilla. Most people who saw this movie have probably never seen the original 1954 Godzilla, And if you did, you would know you'd wait a long time to see Godzilla. And when you do, you see brief glimpses in the shadows. Kind of like in this movie. But the differences between Japanese Godzilla movies and this one, I suppose, is probably the running time, as most American action movies are now standard is usually around 2 hours. So this one, as expected, was around 2 hours, and I enjoyed this 2 hours. But in Japan, it's a little different. In Japan, you could get away, I guess, a lot easier with showing a lot less Godzilla because those movies out there are usually around hour 30, maybe hour 40 minutes tops, except for Godzilla Final Wars. It's probably the only one I can think of. No, for certain. It was only a Godzilla movie that went over the 2 hour mark, or even close, really. This Godzilla movie is 2 hours with, I say, about the same amount of running time he has in a lot of the Japanese movies, just spread out over a 2 hour movie instead of an hour 40-minute one. That's where a lot of conflict probably came to grips with a lot of people, probably, most likely. But for me, the thing for me is, I think this movie was going for a very Spielberg Jurassic Park approach. I mean, if you look at movies like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Alien, or Jaws, or the original 1954 Godzilla, all those movies have one thing in common. Well, a lot of things in common, but here are the main points that make them such big hits. They focused a lot on the human characters, even if they don't go into, I mean, for example, Alien, you don't walk away knowing anything about the characters, but the movie does focus a lot on them and the environment they're set in, which is the future. It's interesting. You wonder what they're going to do with a situation, and you see how they react to it. And yeah, like I said, in the movie, you know nothing but their names, honestly. Maybe a few character traits, minor ones, but you don't really learn anything about them. And it was fine because it was the experience of watching it, the build up towards a final reveal of the monster, and seeing the monster take out these characters that we had grown to get somewhat attached to, and just to ride the thrill of it. And usually the music helps a lot too, and just the way it's done, the shots, the cinematography. That's the same thing with all those movies. Alien specifically, Jaws, Jurassic Park. Lots of build up. You see a monster reveal. It's really epic. You get some great action scenes or suspense scenes, terror scenes, whichever applies to which movie. And then you have humans interacting with that danger, with the thing that was revealed finally. Usually, sometimes an hour into the movie, like Jurassic Park or Alien. And it's the same way Godzilla was done. The problem is people don't know how to watch movies like that anymore, honestly. They don't. That has become less and less popular over the years as every single movie comes out. Namely, these big action movies that are making more and more money, like Transformers, have really destroyed that philosophy entirely. They've literally raped it. But this movie is really all about the build-up. And the build-up for me was very nice, and I loved the delivery of it. This movie kind of follows a lot of things you've seen in Jaws and in his previous movie, Monsters. You see glimpses of Godzilla before you actually see the full reveal. And even when you're not fully seeing Godzilla, the thing I like about this movie, they keep the spectacle of it. They make every moment with him amazing. And I'm not just going as a fanboy. I swear, every single second I saw Godzilla was amazing in one way or another. The scope of it just kept me thrilled every time I saw it, no matter how little or how much I was seeing. For example, the scene where you first get your first real glimpse of Godzilla, you see him swimming and he's about to hit the boat and he goes under it. Then you see how massive he is because he really dwarfs the boat itself and many of the people on there. And of course, they rush to go see this magnificent sight. I love that. You didn't really see Godzilla in that scene. It was a brief introduction of how massive he was, but it was still great. It captured the spectacle of the moment of this idea of a giant monster in this world. And there are many moments like that in this movie. That was the whole point of Godzilla's movie. It was a spectacle to be seen. And I think that another point people really seem to miss about this movie, which I really regret, because in older days people were more acceptable, they were open to this type of thing. Remember when X-Men came out in I think 1989 or 2000, one of those 2 years? The very first X-Men. Remember. Now, X-Men 2, the very first one. Bryan Singer, very good directing, very good cinematography. But overall, the movie was almost a blank slate in some senses. Because, for example, The movie was an hour and 40 minutes, pretty short compared to what would come next in the movie, especially compared to First Class and Days of Future Past and X2. Not talking about the really shitty ones like X-Men 3 and Origins. Now, the first movie, this is a whole lot of background in the comics about these characters. But in the first movie, all you really get is good versus evil, and you get a little subtext of, you know, standing up for what's right and as far as culture and different people, acceptance. That's what you get, Xavier good, Magneto bad, and that's the whole point of the movie, really. They don't go into the intricate relationship between Wolverine and Sabretooth or anything like that. You get the bare basics, but what they do is set up a really good atmosphere, a really different type of world than what we were used to at the time. Excuse me. Because at the time, the only superhero movies that were really big was really Blade, and superheroes have been forgotten by that point. Exide Blade, I mean, before X-Men was what? Spawn and a myriad of other horrible ones, horrible comic book movies. And X-Men, what it did, it brought superhero movies into the bigger picture, made them what they are today, blockbuster juggernauts. Because that first movie was short, rather simple, really, story-wise and character-wise. And it introduced you to these characters, and it got you interested in the world, their plight, and how they're going to deal with it. You don't get much of any of the character relationships in the story other than just basic things. And this movie kind of does that too. The characters are basic. You're not going to get a whole bunch of backstory or anything like that. You're not going to spend an hour building them up character-wise, backstories, anything like that. You're introduced to the world, you see their plight and how they're going to deal with it. And the problems in this one are very human-like. All he wants to do is see his family again, and it's pretty relatable. That's the whole point of the movie, basically. Introducing to the world of Godzilla is for a bigger, wide American audience, which to me is a good thing because Godzilla hasn't had that in such a long time. Especially after the 1998 bomb that it was. And then 2000 followed shortly after, but honestly speaking, I don't think 2000 really got people back into the franchise as a whole wide scale because it had a really offbeat story. I mean, 1954 was great because it had a really nuclear relevant story, and then so did 1984, the second time Godzilla was rebooted. And then got 2000, I like it, not as nowhere near as much as the other two reboots of the Godzilla. The problem with Godzilla 2000 was it was too damn outlandish. Here you have this iconic movie monster coming back, and the first story Toho comes up with is a story involving aliens and a very recognizable opponent, Orga, who's barely in the movie, and just had a myriad of other problems. So it didn't really get people invested that much as a wide cultural thing again in America. After that, no more Godzilla movies were theatrically released ever. It were just DVDs and maybe Sci-Fi Channel if you were lucky. I think this movie did what Godzilla 2000 failed to do. It got people back into it by bringing a very simple story to the attention of the audience. Family, struggle, and it makes it look like a natural disaster, which I think was great because it made it feel very real. It cuts away from the action sometimes just to make it more real. People are so used to being tossed right into the mix of things. To me, this movie tried something different and classic, and it worked out pretty well for me, and I think a lot of other moviegoers who like the classic cinema and the way it's done. It had a very nice, tasteful feel to it. We don't need to be glorified with the explosions every 5 seconds. There needs to be story, build up, and then you get your action, which was very well. The action was very well done in this movie. And Bryan Cranston, he had served his purpose pretty much to me in the story at the time of his death. He was in it for, I'd say, a quarter of the movie, honestly, and it didn't bother me because, like I said, I didn't go in expecting Bryan Cranston versus Godzilla. I know a lot of people were, but I knew that a character like him probably couldn't propel the story the same way any scientist character does not propel the story in a lot of the Godzilla movies. It's usually someone else. Original one. It's more based on a love triangle between Dr. Serizawa and Takarada and another female character. It's not based on the father, the main scientist, Dr. Yahara, I believe. And the same thing with this one, he does his part, he informs the people, he tries to warn them, and it's just that kind of classic tale of the arrogance of man, and I like that. Bryan Cranston served his role well, and that really should be the end of it. There shouldn't be any real complaints. I mean, what can I say? The title was not Bryan Cranston versus Godzilla. As for other human characters, I think they're very well acted, and as far as being bland characters, no. I think this movie was missing what people are really used to these days, especially thanks to Marvel movies that are used to such too much comic relief. I mean, I swear, I go into everything after Iron Man 1 was just almost 90% comedy, 10% action. Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Thor movies especially. Captain America, first one was just garbage. I'm not even going to include that. Captain America 2 was a very different story, but those four films really, Iron Man 2 and 3 and Thor 1 and 2, represent that ideology very much. Lots of comedy, sparse action, and audiences eat it up. I think this movie, it is, much as I hate to say it, it's a fairly realistic thing. We don't need comic relief. We don't need side characters who are there just for jokes, which Thor and Iron Man films are full of. You just get a basic story, realistic. It's simple. They want to be reunited. It's a family. It's honestly pretty relatable compared to the bullshit you see in Thor and Iron Man. But like I said, people eat that shit up because it's funny. Sometimes. Not most of the time at all, though. Not to me. Sorry, my throat's a little dry, but that's the main thing people probably. I think that's why I didn't connect some of the characters. I did, because I realized what it's supposed to be. You're getting a glimpse in this world that it would be interesting if it happened, and it's an awesome spectacle to watch. That's the whole point of the movie. You're out there to really make you laugh, like we try to do. It's just there for the spectacle, the build up, nice dramatic pace of it. And I guess to focus on human characters in general, since only people say the acting is bad to say it's bland, but they love to stick it to Aaron Taylor Johnson. I think his performance was actually not so bad at all. The main point of his character in the movie was that, looking at it from beginning to end, you really see his emotions peak, honestly, several times in the movie, but it's very subtle. And I think the most opening and telling scene about him was he was talking with Bryan Cranston in the beginning before they go out to the nuclear waste site. You see him tell him about his mother, and you see subtle tears in his eyes. And that's the whole point of the character. He's very concealed about his emotions. He holds them in. He tries not to deal with things like that. And on the surface problems, he'd rather just push them down and focus on the present. And that was the whole point of his father in the movie. His father inspired him to change his ways just a little bit, and really put things in gear as far as his family. That's the last thing his father said before he died. Protect your family, keep them safe. And that was the whole point of the movie from there. So at that point, I think Aaron Taylor Johnson did his purpose just well, like every other actor in the movie. Now, do I expect more out of the sequel? Excuse me. Yes, I do. And the thing is, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get it. That's why I'm not worried about the sequel at all. I think it's going to be a fantastic movie. Notice, X-Men, first one, X2, longer, more character development, epic storyline. By X2, you still don't learn that much about a lot of the other characters, but you're still enthralled so much by that adventure and the story, the world you're thrust in, that it's entertaining as all hell. That's the whole point of a lot of movies like this. And that's what I think Godzilla 2 would definitely be. There's going to be more monsters, double the monsters, Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. Monsters you can recognize. They no longer have to establish Godzilla or the concept of monsters in a world. It's already going to be a known thing, so therefore, the movie will have hopefully the same amount of build-up, and it'll be really great once you see the monsters on the screen. Oh, excuse me. So, was Godzilla 14 perfect? No, not perfect. Not the best movie of all time, but I think it was a very respectable entry into the Godzilla franchise. That definitely is among the best. I would agree with that. And I'd say I'm hoping for a lot more American Godzilla from Gareth Edwards. I honestly can't think of many directors who would have handled it in such a way and made me still walk away very pleased with it. So as for Godzilla 14, I'm definitely gonna give it an A. I definitely give it an A range. At most, I give it Lowest I'd give it 8. Highest I would give it 9, maybe even 10 stars for me. It was a very good experience. So that's my first episode of good or bad. I mean, good and I'm still working on a title. Honestly, I'll figure it out by the time I post it on YouTube, obviously. But on the first episode, I hope people tune in for more. And that was my complete review, weighing the good and bad, pros and cons of Godzilla 2014. I'm gonna go get some water because damn, I am dying. All right, peace out, YouTube.